Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel where we review anything and everything. And right now it is the middle of summer, and so this is kind of the perfect time, or a little behind if you want to say, to get into a water gun review, because it is really hot out there in the last couple of days, last couple of weeks actually. So just to get a little background, I was inspired to buy these because one day I was out with my sons and we were at the park and some kids had the XSHOT Zuru branded. I think the brand is Zuru, similar to the way the Super Soaker's branding is Nerf. And then XSHOT is similar to the way Super Soaker is the sub branding. And there was a kid who had a larger version of XSHOT. I'm just gonna call him XSHOT. I'm not gonna add the Zuru in the title. XSHOT water gun, similar to that size Super Soaker. And so right away, I took my kids to Target, came right back to the park, so they had something to blast with, a little bit more hand-friendly, manageable for my kids because they were smaller, and I didn't really know what was out there in terms of the water guns. And then a week later, I went and bought those two, which I actually seen this one online before, but then hesitated on it. Later on bought this, then went and knew of that one. Then I went and got that one. So we're gonna do a whole full breakdown, but I just want to throw it out there as far as the inspiration, how I got into this, and you know, the whole thing with these water guns. Now, little bit of also background history for Super Soaker, for those who don't know. It was the top brand of water gun many years back. I don't know when the exact date was, but you had the Super Soaker 50, then you had as the main gun, then you had the Super Soaker 100, and then later on you had the Super Soaker 30. So it was almost like that three gun range. And then later on they introduced Super Soaker 200, which I wanted so bad back in the days, but I never had a chance to get it. It had two barrels on it. The one thing that was interesting with the Super Soakers was that you would have to pump them up. They'd have like normally a pump on the bottom of it, similar to like a shotgun. You would pump it up and then you pull the trigger, and the pump would give pressure to push air behind that water. So when it shot, you got a long stream of water, and it almost felt like you were getting a mechanized blast without batteries or anything of that sort. One negative I always found with that was if you pumped it a little too much, that pressure in the gun, in the tank, would cause, I think, separation in the gun to where you start getting leakage sometime because that pressure buildup wasn't good for the gun. So these Super Soakers do away with that, even the stronger one. And I'm going to speak also about the XSHOT counterparts, because the XSHOT and the Super Soakers, at least this particular line, do the exact same things for the most part. They're just slightly different. And I'm going to go into those differences as well. Link's going to be in the description down below for these that you see in front of you, but also some of the other versions of the ones that are in these lines. Now, though they make different types, and I'm doing this review for both of these lines because it's easier for me to compare them. I thought about just doing the XSHOTs. I bought that first, and by the time I was settling to do the review anyway, I already had all these blasters in hand, but I didn't want to do them separately because I think that the talking points between the two different brands are very interesting, and it's better and easier to talk about them at the same time. So this is going to be a very long review, so don't mind, but I really want to get into these details. So first off, I am going to post a picture of the box design of the XSHOT. This one is called the XSHOT Micro Fast Fill. All of them are going to have fast fill in the name for the XSHOTs, and all of these particular, the line I'm talking about for the Super Soaker, are going to have Mega Dunk, or I'm sorry, it's going to have Dunk Fill. Mega Dunk is the name of that specific one. Mini is the name of this one, as you can see on the box. I don't have the box for this one anymore, so like I said, I would have posted a picture when I just mentioned, or somewhere in this realm, of the box layout for this one. This was a double pack, and it has two of these same blasters. And I'm gonna also, like I said, at some point later, throw in a picture. I'm gonna throw in the same picture time that I throw a picture of this. I'm gonna throw in a picture of the other line of the XSHOTs so you can see all the rest of them. And the reason why also is because when I talk further about it, you'll know the ones I'm talking about. So at the same time, I was going to insert that, which would have been a little bit probably before this talking point. Now you're going to see that. So here you can see on the box it says 170 milliliters for how much it holds. I make a mistake later on in the video thinking that it's 700 because on this photo here you could see for the microfast it says 700 milliliters. So just reference that when I'm talking about what I'm talking about. So anyway, so this right here, basically the design of these, the concept of these with this one is called the fast fill designs, and that is called a dunk fill. The idea of it is no longer you filling up the your water gun by having a detachable tube like the old Super Soakers or some kind of thing like that, or even having like just a area where you know, you fill up like on the back, open up a little hole and you fill up the water in. The idea in these is that you fill them by dunking them in water. Preferably what I found, a bucket is the best use. And I'm gonna demonstrate that later on when I go have an outside shot of showing how these guns work. And essentially the idea is that you're dunking it and you're filling it up instantly, but they both use different fill mechanisms. Now the XSHOT here, and all the other XSHOTs that are part of the fast fill line. So I just wanted to have a little bit of what I wrote down next to me so I won't be forgetting the name of these all the time. So this one right here, first of all, I'm gonna get the price out of the way real quick, and then I'm gonna go into the dive of the details of the differences. So this right here was a double pack. I actually picked it up at Target, but it's for the same price on Amazon. Like I said, link's gonna be description for all of these down below. This right here was for $15 for two, so that's a pretty decent deal. But that right there, the mini dunk fill, is actually $4. And I think that's probably the best value. And I'm gonna explain later on why I feel that it's comparable to this, even though the design of this looks bigger. I don't know exactly how much water that fills, but like how much it holds, but I do think that in real time it's comparable because this one has a different type of shooting. I feel that this one's shooting is a little more a longer stream. I'll get into that later as well, but for that reason I think that that is the best value just in terms of you spending $4 and what you're getting. This right here is the larger of the Super Soakers, and this one goes for $15 by itself. So you could either get a double pack of this for the same price as a single price of that. So and the larger counterpart to the XSHOT is the I forget the name of it, but I would have posted an image of it, and so you'll see which one I'm talking about previously before I even got to this part of the video, so you'll know which one I'm referencing. But the bigger version, they actually have 4 versions in this line, and the bigger version is the single pack of it is $19. I think they do have a double pack, but the single pack of it is like $19 if I'm not mistaken. So I could be wrong, but the link's gonna be in the description down below. So it's a little bit more expensive for all the XSHOT counterparts, but it's not that big of a deal. And if you like the styling of them better, then you can go with them. Now, the way you fill this one up is you put it in a bucket or a pool, you lift it up like this, and when you dunk it in, the water fills in, and then you let it go. It seals, but then I always say give it a tap. So I always tell my kids when they're running around, give it a tap, because you want to make sure that it's sealed. Now this one is a little bit more of a basic design when it comes to the idea of filling the fill mechanism, because it's just simply a big open area, water fills in it, and then you seal it. And this has a more like a rubbery feel here on the bottom of this. So you seal it, it locks in. And you can see it's almost got like you can see how it's got a lock to it, because even though there's nothing here that looks like some kind of thing to make the hammer, you know, kind of click, but when you press it, it just does. So I don't know how that works, but it does, and it works like that. I don't know where that thing is that makes that have that click motion. Maybe it's just from pressure of the sealing, but it does, and that's how you make sure you do it. So you fill it up, give it a little tap, on top. But what's nice, even like I said, this is a dual pack. You'll see at a later part of the video when I demonstrate it outside that you can dual wield this one. You can dual wield that one as well, because the shooting mechanism is just the trigger, and I like that. It goes back to the old school days of those tiny little water guns that you would pull that little tab out, fill in the water, and it wouldn't shoot far, but you just have the regular trigger. Both of these work. The leftover water inside. I'm making a mess. Now, I'm sorry, I lost my train of thought. But so this type right here, yes, with the trigger pull, it's very nice. It's very nice. It's very simple. Obviously, you don't have to do no pumping. It's a nice stream. It's a nice shot, and you really get a lot. You get good length out of this one as far as the range. I think it advertises about 26 feet. I would say you probably get about maybe 20 feet on this. You probably aren't going to get the full advertised amount unless you're angling it maybe a little bit more upwards. But for the most part, it's a good distance, especially for a sidearm or you know, a hand-sized gun. It's great. This one's stream, I will say, is a bit. When you do the trigger pull, I feel like it's more of a longer stream than that one. And so that's the positive of it. This one, though, I believe is more comparable. Like, I think they're comparable to each other, but in terms of their line, I think that the smaller version of this, which is called, this one's called the Micro, there's a Nano fast fill, XSHOT fast fill, and that's supposed to be more comparable to the Mini on this one. So, I believe so. I'm not too sure if they exactly line up, because I think the Super Soakers dump fills have only 3 different ones, and then the XSHOTs have, for their fast fill, have 4. So I'm gonna put that aside real quick. Taking a look at this, the Mini Dunk, I really like this one a lot. I'm not gonna say I necessarily like it better than this one, but for the value of $4, this one is far better in my opinion for the value, because I really do feel, and I've practiced with all of these. I had a water gun fight with my sons, and I really do feel that this one right here can easily compare to this one here. The amount that it holds is comparable. It's not exactly the same, but keep in mind, you can see there that it does have an extra space going up there, so it's probably up to here, and that's a good amount. It's almost comparable to this, because the truth is, when I look inside here, all the green is what's filling up, and nothing. You got a little bit going back here, but it's not too much outside the green, so I really do feel that this is comparable. The shooting range on these are both somewhat comparable too. I think this one might be a little longer, but not by much, maybe like 3 feet longer. So if this one's like, say, like 17-ish feet, maybe this one might be 20, you're not gonna really notice it. The streams on this one are longer on the pull, I feel, but this one also runs out of water faster than this one, I feel. So like, but like I said, the real deciding factor is this is $4, and I feel like you're getting pretty much about the same performance as this one for $4. So with that being the case, you spend $14 on this, you get 2 of these for the $14. That's how I purchased it. There are single packs. I'm not sure the price of those off the top of my head. You could look at them up on Amazon, but I'm gonna put up the link for the double pack on this. And well, I may put up the link of the single pack. I'm not gonna double up on the links, but I'll see which whenever is available. I'll put that one up so you'll see the price on that. But that's great for if you got, like, you know, 2 people who wanna play and shoot with. You're gonna get that value, because I think it's cheaper if you buy the double pack. But this right here for $4, you can get 2 of them. That's $8. You can dual wield them, and you can dual wield these, but for $8, for less than the price of like one of these. I think that's one of these, I wanna say is, I think it's like $8. So you're getting 2 of these for that price. I think that this is great value. What's interesting is you can put a scope on this that works with the Nerf guns. So the regular Nerf guns are compatible with this. The only difference is that these are shooting water. They're still considered Nerf guns. So that's interesting there too. The way this mechanism works is you dunk it in the water, and I'm gonna demonstrate this. This one I demonstrate inside the video later. I don't know if I demonstrated this one in the video, but I demonstrated the other ones in the video, if I'm not mistaken, but the later part of the video when I go outside. But you dunk it in the water, And when say that my hand's where the water is at, you dunk it in the water, it submerges, it automatically fills up based on the mechanism, and then afterwards you just pull it out. So all these things fill up in 1 second, literally. If you want to dump it, you can push your finger here. So let me just want to angle my lighting a little bit so you could see things a little bit better. You push in like that and let the water drain out. Now, I'm going to tell you a pro and con versus, I'm going to get this out of the way. I'm going to reiterate this later when I go outside. But one of the big major differences between the super soakers and the XSHOTs, and I'm referring just to the dunk fill and the fast fill lines. So in just general, if I just say the fast fill line, I'm just talking about both of their versions of this fast fill, you know, which that's called dunk fill. But the pro to the style of the XSHOT is, it's a very simple mechanism that will probably never go wrong. You just open it up, it fills up, and then you just seal it like that. It doesn't have any kind of mechanics going on, so there's less room for error doing it like that. You can see that. You just got to do that tap, but other than that, it's fine. It should never stop working. This one right here, and even including the all the ones from this line, they use this mechanism. That one uses it on the front here. So essentially, there's more going on, because you see it's more technical. There's things going on. If for whatever reason this gives you problems down the line, I don't see that happening, but let's just assume that it does. You can have leaks from here. Maybe it doesn't fill correctly. So this has more room for error. That's the negative for this, and that's the positive for this design. The negative for this design versus the positive for this design is specifically when you're using a bucket. And I feel most of the time you'll be using a bucket. I've used a bucket outside, which I filled up water from a hose. I also used a bucket when I went to a park that had one of these fountains, the water's popping up from the ground. It had like a little ground area with like jets of water coming up for the kids to play. And I used that just to fill up the bucket in a place where I didn't have access to water. I already knew that was the park that I said I seen the kid with the XSHOT, the larger version, and I went to buy the water guns for my kids. Knowing that that was the layout, I bought the bucket because I knew I need a way to fill up these water guns. This size works okay in a bucket. The larger version doesn't, because as you would have seen from the picture I posted up, the larger version it'll be like that size of a blaster, but the refill area, the open area will be on the back. You can't dip that into a bucket because it's too big to dip into a bucket getting the back end in. So that, for the big one, doesn't work at all. This one works up until the bucket is maybe about this high with water. After that, once it starts getting down to here, the bucket, you can't really use this one anymore to refill. You can try to turn it sideways and get some of that water in, and maybe you can go like that sideways and then lock it up if you get it in there. But the point is, the negative on this becomes you can't really get to the bottom of the water. This one right here, including that one, will always go straight down, and it starts filling from the bottom up rather than you trying to fill from the top down. So you can get this into a bucket of water that's down this low and still fill it. Even that one, the bucket of water may not be, let's assume that, you know, this is going downwards into the water. The bucket of water might only be full up to here, but at least you're able to fill up to here when the water starts getting low. The larger version of the XSHOT blaster, you can't. You literally have to lift the bucket up and pour it into the back end of this. Now this one, you can't pour things. So that like I said, that you don't have that simplicity of the way this one works. But generally speaking, you don't even want to be doing that. You just want to be dunking. So the Nerf, the Super Soakers work better for the dunking. That's the negative and positive between the way these things fill up with water. Now, another thing is this type of this specific blaster. This is not the case with that other one, but this one, because when you dunk it, the whole blaster will probably get dunked into water because it's so small. If water gets all up in here, which is not part of the fill mechanism, it has a drainage to let that water out of it, so you don't have just excess water just sitting inside the gun shaking around. It drains it out because there's no point in that being in there. So it makes sense. So that's cool. This shows you how it's done, how you dunk it in, and this just shows you on the back too. Dunk it in, and then that's it. Trigger pull. Very simple mechanism. Like I said, you're gonna see a video later on later part of the video, I'm sorry, where I'm outside. I'm gonna show you how these things shoot, and you're gonna see, I really think these two are very comparable. But one thing I do wanna mention, you're gonna see later on in the video, is that out of the double pack of this, one of them is not aiming straight when you shoot. It's kind of tilting a little bit off to the side. So that's one thing too. Could it be fixed with the little nozzle? Maybe stick something in there and try to kind of like, you know, maybe open up the hole a little bit. I'm not too sure. I really do love the way this blaster looks. So it feels really nice in the hand. It has almost that 6-shooter or futuristic 6-shooter type of design, like something from one of those video games or something like that. But it's very cool. I do like the design of this one as well. So they're both good. Here we have the larger blaster. Now just taking a quick look at the box. I'm just gonna flip it upside down. I mean, reverse, and you can see here that you dunk it. Well, you guys can see that right there, but you dunk it, and then you pump action. So it's pumped like a shotgun. Now, I'm gonna demonstrate this one as well, but essentially, like in the later part of the video, but essentially this one's not using a trigger, so they don't put a trigger here. What's interesting is the XSHOT models that also use a pump, they put a trigger. There's really no point in it. It doesn't work. This one has a built-in little scope just for aesthetics. It looks nice, I think. The blaster looks nice. With this one, you pull back like this, and I am making a mess already with more water. But you pull it back and you pump it like that, and that's essentially just how it goes. So it's an easy mechanism for you to just pump. When you pull it like that, it gives you substantial pressure for a nice long stream. It says it on here, the amount of ounces on it. I didn't know it said it on here. This is interesting. This is interesting because, so this one right here says 1,005 milliliter capacity. What's interesting is this one says on the 2-pack of this one, it said 700, but maybe it's referring to each one is 700, I think is what it's referring to, because I didn't understand that as much on the package, but I think because it's a double blaster pack, I think it's really trying to say each one is 350. That makes a little more sense, because this one right here is saying 101. I don't even remember seeing this on the packs. I'm just noticing now for the first time, 101 milliliters. So that makes sense because the XSHOT has another blaster that says 700, and it's a bigger blast than this one. So, so I kind of misunderstood. The double pack puts both of their readings at the same time in terms of how much the capacity to hold. But actually, one of these, then half of that should be 350. So you get the milliliters aspect of it there. So this one does hold more, but I felt that this one will shoot almost just as long because, like I mentioned, when you do the trigger pull on this one here, I feel that it's almost like you get a longer stream. More water flow is actually coming out. It's not necessarily like shooting further by that much, by a little bit, but it's more of like the stream of water is longer. So just to give context to it, it'd be like this one, the stream might be that long. Well, the smaller Super Soaker with Mini, the stream might be that long. You're still getting just as many shots. It's just less water is coming out per trigger pull, if that makes sense to you guys. Now, this right here, back to this one, the fill mechanism is right here. That's that push in. So when you want to drain it quick, you push it in, have it, you know, upside, like where this is facing down, and it will pour out. When you dunk it, obviously you push it in, and this ends up going up, and then the water fills up. So it's very simple. This one right here, comparing it to the old Super Soakers, and the reason why I'm gonna say that is just because it's more comparable in the way of like the force of it and this and that, even though you aren't doing a bunch of pumping and the pressure. This pull, because you have this long kind of pull like that, it's a very long stream, it's a very large pressurized stream. You are gonna hose somebody down with it. Whenever I use this against my kids, which most of the time I just use the smaller blasters, I let them use the bigger ones because I have 2 of these. If I did use this on them, it really holds them down. You get hit with one shot of this, your entire shirt is soaked. That's one shot. That's the pro of it. It's very much like the big Canon version. And like I said, XSHOT has their version, which I already would have posted a picture of. And both of them, I would say, even from watching the other kid at the park use, because he had the bigger version of the XSHOT version, both of them are doing that damage. They're both really hitting hard with the hose. I think the XSHOT version has a circular nozzle to change up the type of spray from a single shot to like a triple shot and then this and that, which is actually pretty cool. The only reason why I probably would consider not getting it is because once I realize when it comes to the buckets, like I said before, you can't fill that one up in the bucket. I know because when I brought the bucket to the park, the other kid who had the bigger version of the XSHOT, he couldn't use my bucket to fill his thing up because he couldn't dunk it. It was too big. He tried and he couldn't. He dunked it in like this, coming straight up. And essentially where it went to on his gun, it was like standard like bucket that you would get at Home Depot or Target. I bought it at Target. And it probably went to here on his gun. And the fill up part was back here. So he couldn't even submerge it. Let alone if he could have submerged it, it would have only let some of it in. And after that, that would have been it. So I say that simply to say, the way you see it demonstrated here, filling up in the bucket, the XSHOTs really don't fill up well in buckets at all. So that's why I wouldn't go for it in that regard. But if you are using it at a pool, it does have the feature of the nozzle. Like right here will be big, and then it'll have like, you can rotate it for different types. But anyway, so back to this blaster here, as far as the performance, you're really hosing someone down. You're really doing a lot of performance. So this is like your heavy duty blaster versus the smaller blasters. It's really great. It's doing substantial damage. This is the one you want to have if you're really trying to like do some main damage in a water gun fight. The negative, this thing will empty its entire container in really just like under a minute, you're done. I'll probably say you could excuse me, if this is full, you probably get like a solid, maybe like, I want to say you'll probably get a solid 25 to 30 shots with this thing before it's done. And to be honest, that might seem like a lot, but when you're running and shooting and you're missing and you're shooting from a distance and this and that, the amount of hits you're gonna get on someone, solid hits probably, and they're running away from you, maybe you might get a solid 5-6 shots, unless you get them cornered someplace. Like I can get good shots on my little kids because they're 6 years old. That's not a problem. Them, when they were using this to shoot me and I'm running away from them and I'm able to dodge, they might get a good like 3 shots on me, 4 shots on me before they had to go refill. So I say that simply to say that this thing will drain quick. It's probably even less than that. I might be over exaggerating how many shots you're gonna get with it. It's probably less than that. It's probably really closer to like 15, to be honest with you. I think I'm over exaggerating in going to that 25-30 range. It probably is really like 15 17 shots. It drains quick, but those shots are very long. They're very just full of water. They're a lot of pressure. They go in the distance. They're really destroying the opponent. Now with that, like I said, this is just very good for doing the damage. Now when it comes to shooting though, you gotta kind of really, I believe that the sucking mechanism or the tube or the hose or whatever you want to call it, I think it's down below. You gotta hold this like this, or you angle it a little like this to get a good shot when it starts getting low. You can't really go like this. So I had some trouble when I used this, that my kids are like about 3 feet tall, in that range, a little over 3 feet or about 3 feet. Anytime that they were somewhat close proximity to me, so maybe about 20 feet away, within the range of me shooting them with this blaster, I had to keep aiming. Every time I aim a little more angled downwards like this to make sure I got a good shot, I was pumping out mist sometimes, and I had to pull it back or lower it. I had to kind of kneel down and lower it so that way it's going straight, but I'm getting that water back here. So when you're full, that's not a problem. It's not a problem when you're shooting people at your regular height. When you're shooting kids, it gets a little tough because you start angling like that and it's not shooting that good. So you want to keep it straight or angle it a little bit back. You're getting a nice solid stream. So just want to give a little heads up with that. Other than that, if you're battling little kids, you could do fine with just 2 of these. I like to rock 2 of these in my hand versus my kids having had each one of these, and it was great because at their age I could dodge their shots, but they couldn't dodge mine, and I would dual wield these, and 2 of these in your hand will make up for the damage of this versus a little kid. Not an adult, An adult is gonna hose you down with this, and you can't use 2 of these to match that. But little 6-year-olds, and you're a full-grown adult, you can use 2 of these to match your little kids. Just know that the one time they do get a solid blast on you with this, it is cold and it's hitting your whole back if you're running, and your whole back is gonna be soaked. So just be aware of that. So now I'm going to stop the video here. We're gonna jump into the outside clip. I know the video has gotten long already, and then when we come back, I'm just gonna give my final thoughts. Okay, everybody, so we are back with the test of these water guns. Now, the first one I'm gonna use is the XSHOT. This is the XSHOT XSHOT micro fast fill. Now, as I said before, this came in a 2-pack, but the thing about it, you're going to see that the quality control is a little different because one of them doesn't blast straight and the other one does. Now, you might be able to fix that by getting into the little nozzle piece here, but other than that, to be honest, yeah, it's not a bad blaster, but you have that to consider. Now, the way you fill these up, as I would have already demonstrated in the earlier part of the video, you just lift this up and then you dunk it. So you can pretty much fill these both at the same time. So we're going to do that. Now, one thing I recommend also is you purchase a bucket. You can get a Target bucket, or you can get yourself a Home Depot bucket. They're usually just $5. You fill them up, and you get a little bit of leakage coming down when you first do it. It's fine, and I'm gonna mention some details on that because, well, the Super Soaker Mini actually has something for that because it has a lot more internals that are exposed, where this has big water containers on the top and less internals to worry about. So let's see. Hopefully, you guys can see pretty well. I'm gonna do one first. And it looks like it goes maybe about a good 15, almost 20 feet. Though the package says like 26 feet. This one goes straight. So you can see that it goes straight. This one, it tilts. That's not because of the wind. It just naturally tilts. So that's something that, you know, other than that, it works really good. Now, I'm going to say in advance, one reason why I wanted to do this review of all these blasters at the same time is because, one, I got these a week before I got the Super Soakers, but the comparison, I'm able to do a comparison in the same video rather than do them as separate videos and then do a comparison. So one thing I want to mention is these ones as the micro, as what they consider them, because I think there is a smaller size and it's called like a mini, I believe, of the XSHOTs. And I'll try to post a link in the description for any other variants of the fast fill versions. And essentially, I want to say that the shots on these, I feel like, are pretty decent for just a trigger pull. It's a stronger trigger pull than, say, the Super Soaker Minis that you'll see after I do these ones, which those have a shorter shot. But what I'm going to say is the benefit to these is they have a longer range, and it feels like a longer stream, meaning like there's more water pulling out of it from that pressure of the longer trigger pull. But the problem, I'm going to say, is you're going to drain water quicker. And at another point in the video, I'm going to go over the refill mechanisms, probably in the earlier part of the video. So I'm doing this clip first, so don't mind if certain talking points might seem a little bit out of order or mixed. So I'm draining these out now, and I'm going to now get the Super Soaker Mini double fill. So the thing about it with the double fill, so this was a double pack for the XSHOT micro for $15. The Super Soaker Mini actually runs for $4, which I think is probably the best value here. Here you go. Now I'm gonna dunk it. Now when you dunk it, all you're doing for the dunk is literally you're dunking straight in, you're pulling right out, and it's full. So this one uses a more technical mechanism versus that particular XSHOT, the fast fill XSHOT. But I won't say there's more room for error in the other one. Well, I mean, there's more room for error in this one, but at the same time, possibly. The other one's a lot more of a simple mechanism. I'm going to tell you the pro to the way this one fills up and how all the Super Soaker, they call them dunk fill, and the XSHOTs are called fast fill. So we're just going to call them fast fill in general. In comparison to all the fast fill lineups of each the Super Soaker or the XSHOT, what makes the Super Soakers a little bit better? And I'll explain that in a moment. So here you can see the trigger pull. It's still very comparable to that XSHOT, to the point where I wouldn't tell you that it's that much of a difference, a noticeable difference. I do feel though that with this one, when I would use it, I feel the trigger pull feels, I don't know why, when I was using this one and I was shooting fast like that, I felt like I started getting more tired in the fingers. But nonetheless, it shoots straight. Both of them shoot straight. I have two of them, so I'm not going to compare the other one because there was no difference. If you want to drain it quick, this area here, you push it in to make it drain quick. It almost has a pressure gauge here, so it fills up automatically when you put it down to the water. But also when you're releasing it, you have to push it up like that. It's a nice system. The pro to it is that when you use a bucket, as I just mentioned, I advise you to get a bucket when it comes to using these outside at a park, because you're not going to be able to just fill up water very easy. And these drain water fast. All these types drain water very fast. Now, when you dunk it, because you're going down into the barrel, you're able to get the lower amount of water. With the X-Fill, because you press the trigger on the back, and then, I'm sorry, the X-Shot, you press the trigger on the back and then it fills up from the top. Only when the water is high are you really able to get that. When the water starts getting maybe about like that high in the bucket, you can't even get the gun like that. You can go sideways, but it's not the same. Where this one, you're gonna be able to go as low as long as the water is like this high, you're gonna be able to fill up. So that's one benefit. Now, like I said before, the negative is this one has a more technical mechanic to it. And that might be a thing where you might say to yourself, that it's there's the potential of something going wrong. Now, another thing too is that this one has is, if you see these holes right here on the bottom, it's because, like I said before, the XShot has a bunch of the how should I say it, the water containers all at the top, and very minimal internals in terms of where water could get to. This one, you can have water get all up in here and everything like that. So there's a drainage system. So when you finish dunking it and water gets all in it, you see it drains. So that's just to make sure that you don't have the extra water inside here. But don't worry, that's not coming from here. And this keeps the little tube piece on the very bottom. The X-Shots, I would say they're kind of more on the back end, back towards the trigger area of it. So you had to kind of keep it roughly straight. And like I said, this one, for the most part, is a very comparable blast to those particular X-Shots, but those X-Shots are not their smallest version. I think there is another Super Soaker, one that's in between this one, from this one to the Mega Dunk Fill, which I'm going to show next. But yes, so just something to be aware of. I think that for the value, though, this is amazing. And I think it holds just about as much water as those X-Shots. But the X-Shots, I do think, have a longer stream of water. Not necessarily more range. This has about the same range, but that there's more stream of water, if you're understanding what I'm saying, in that kind of shot, because the trigger pull feels like it's longer. So you have that. Now we're going to get and demonstrate the Mega Dunk, the Super Soaker Mega Dunk. And this is comparable to XShot has their own fast fills, like bigger version, which I actually seen a kid have in a park, which is what made me go buy water guns in the first place. Now that one fills up from the back of it. It has this big container and it fills up from the back, and most of the controls are at the bottom. This one kind of does it differently, where the fill is at the lower portion here, or the front of the blaster, and so you have everything kind of like separate, like where the other one is a big container on the top going across on the X-Shots version. Like I said, I'm going to put a link in the description for that one as well. Now, this one dunks in straight. It's the same concept, except it's down here. This is the little plug area that you just saw in the small one. This does the same thing. Dunk it in, it fills up, and then when you want to release it, you could just press that in and it'll drop out quick. So I'm going to dunk it in. Now, it's not going to fill up a lot because I don't have the bucket full of water, but this goes to my point that I was just saying. The bucket of water is not that much. You really need like a fully deep bucket. Now, I dunked it a couple more times. You can see I got a little bit more water in it, but it's not going to get much more than that because the bucket height is only about here. I'll tell you exactly where it's at with the water. Yep, it's right at that level with the water from the tip of here to here. So that's what you're getting. Now you do get a little bit of spillage when you're held down like that, but let me move my bucket out the way. Hold it like this. Now here's gonna be the, I'm gonna say the negative and the positive with this one. This one, you just pump it like a shotgun and you get a nice long stream. It's very powerful too. So it's good. It feels like classic super soakers without the buildup of that extra pump for the pressure. It doesn't have a trigger though. There's no trigger. You're just holding it and you're blasting. So you're getting almost like that same, that had to be close to like what, 20 feet, 25 feet right there maybe, or more. Yeah, so, well, maybe like 20, 25 feet. It's a nice blast. It's a strong blast. So it's very reminiscent of classic super soakers in terms of the strength. Here goes the negative though. This thing drains so fast that you literally are done with a couple of shots and you're out. So now you see it's kind of spraying. Now the mechanism, the part where it seeps it in a straw, if you want to say that, is down at the bottom here. Yeah. So what happens is, as you start shooting, you got to kind of start pulling it back to kind of get that, you know, keep shooting. If you start aiming forward or down, my kids, when I was shooting with them, they're like about 3 feet or in that range. As I'm standing above them and I'm trying to shoot downwards at them with this big blaster, I'm not getting that much of a good shot. And then so I had to start kind of holding it down to the waist, or even ducking a little low and aiming high so the water would go back to the area where you can actually utilize the actual shot. So that's something. So this is definitely, once you start getting in the bigger range, like I said, I'm sure that this is comparable to the XSHOT version, which, like I said, I've seen before and whatnot. This handle right here feels like if you drop it though, I'm gonna let you know, because it's divided in two pieces. It feels very flimsy right there. So be careful with that. But it's very nice as far as like hardcore blaster. It's only $15, so you really are getting your money's worth with this. This, like, I think would easily equal to or outmatch the Super Soaker 100 back in the days. And you'd have less likelihood also of it breaking, because sometimes you used to put all that pressure onto the blasters. When you pump them so much, it would damage the blasters. But this, I don't think you have to worry about that. And it's nice, it's stylish, it's cool. My only thing, my gripe, is that it runs out very fast. Now, with my little kids, I sometimes will use the two. I used the two Super Soaker mini dunk fill, the two smaller ones, and each one will have one of these. And because they're smaller, yes, it's a little easier for me to avoid their shooting. What would happen is I was able to last longer with my shots than they would with these, because they'd run out so quick, because the streams on this is so much. It's like you're shooting a hose. So I just wanted to demonstrate that, and we're gonna go back to the lab so I can break down my full comparison. All right, you guys, so my final thoughts are, I think that these blasters are great. I explained the differences between the XSHOTs versus the Super Soakers. I don't think you can go wrong with either or, but I will say that if you are in a pool situation, I will say that the XSHOTs are gonna be a little bit better. And the reason why is because if you're in a pool, you may not have the angle to be above the water and dunk straight down, especially with this one where it has to be turned around, and with that big blaster it has to come down like that. And if you're in a pool where the water is up to maybe your shoulders, it may be hard for you to kind of lift up and it comes straight down like that, because you gotta have that direct pressure where the water hits the base of the fill mechanism, so it goes, it causes that reaction, so it will go in. You can't come sideways with that. You can't dunk that sideways like the way you see it facing into the pool and expect it to fill up. It may not fill up correctly, so you're supposed to go down. And that's where something like this, that you just open up underwater and then close it and tap it, you're gonna be able to fill it in any orientation when you're in a pool. If you're using a bucket and you're outside, the super soakers are definitely the better bet because you're gonna dunk downwards, and that is where the best bet is with that. So those are my thoughts when it comes to how you're using it in terms of where your water source is coming from. Neither one of these are really good for you filling up water like at a sink or something like that, though you can do it better with this one, but you're not gonna really be able to get a tube underneath here like that. You got to be angling. These are not made for that. So if you're trying to fill up at a sink, don't buy any of these. They're not made for that at all, to be honest with you. So don't even do it. You really got to just buy a bucket, which honestly makes water gun play even funner, because if you fill up at a sink, you'd run out like back in the days, then you have to run back outside, run back inside, fill up, and then run back outside. And that used to always be a pain, which is why the old school super soakers used to be good, because they came with tubes that were like this big and they lasted a little bit longer. But now you just come out with a bucket. It doesn't matter the capacity of the gun, because everyone's just gonna run back to the bucket, fill up, and start shooting again. So now capacity doesn't really matter as much. So something like this or this can be just as fun as something like that. With that being said, if you're using a bucket outside, I say stick with the Nerf blasters because they're better for the bucket refill. With that said, I'm gonna say now, between you buying that type of blaster and this type of blaster, the bigger ones versus the smaller ones, I will say this, especially if you're doing the bucket thing and you're buying the Nerfs. This is fun for the price, and the price of the Nerf ones, or the super soakers, I'll say, are cheaper than the XSHOTs. So feel free to get it just to have it in your lineup. I think it's great to have in your lineup. But I will say this, if you're at a park or you go somewhere, because sometimes I would take the bucket and I'd walk to the park, which was like on my same block. It wasn't a far walk, but you're carrying a big heavy bucket of water. Just know that if you're doing that and you got a park that's not far from you, you can walk to it. It's maybe like half a block away on your block. You walk with a bucket. Buy those kind of blasters. That one specifically, even over the XSHOT, because one, like I said, in a bucket, those are easier to fill up. Two, they're small, low capacity, so you could buy a few of them, like 4 of them. They're very cheap. Spread them out amongst you, your kids, your family, whatever the case is, and it will last longer because they don't take up as much water. So now you can run around just having a blast for the majority of the time that you are away from a water source, because you walk to the park with a bucket of water. That right there will drain the bucket so fast. It's more of an intense battle, but I would say primarily use that if you live in a house, or you're gonna play in a house environment where you can fill up the bucket with a hose at any given time. You can say everybody, hey, listen, stop, we're gonna fill up the bucket. Don't shoot me while I'm filling out the bucket, because my kids tend to wanna shoot me while I'm filling up the bucket. And so I honestly would say, if you're in that kind of situation, that's when you want to use that. You can still buy it anyway just to have on hand, but that's the kind of situation you want to use it. Or if like maybe you filled up multiple buckets, then you could use that. But if you just want to be able to be more mobile, you want to go to the park, you take a bucket and go to the park, I say buy multiple of these because they will last a lot longer when you're out there shooting. And that is my wrap up, you guys. As always, like, share, comment, subscribe, and I will catch you guys in the next video.